An Empire of Ice and Fire by Longclaw 1-6. Chapter 89. A Dance of Lovers. Oathkeeper ready to plunge down into the Empress's shoulder, Brienne suddenly felt the touch of cold steel gently brush against her neck, right above the steel breastplate guarded her torso. Paused, still in mid-assault, both women panted, drawing icy air into their burning lungs with every gasp. "Yield," Dany said through the creeping tide of exhaustion, blood of the dragon fighting to overcome it. Brienne gingerly lowered her sword arm, quickly wiping a sheen of sweat from her face, before it froze in the northern winter. "Good show, your grace," she told the diminutive empress, petite body belaying the pure dragonfire ready to explode at the right opportunity within. "A worthy opponent." Grinning, rather enjoying the pair of trousers provided her for the training session underneath her thick cloak, Dany eyed the Lady Knight of Tarth, as many were taken to calling her. "From that tone, I believe you haven't seen many worthy opponents." Shaking her head, Brienne matched the wry smirk on her monarch's lips. "Only 3, besides yourself, have ever bested me in a fair fight. His Majesty," not surprising for Daenerys, "Sir Jaime before he lost his hand, and—" "Don't you forget it, my lady," came the sarcastic chuckle. Arya's chestnut hair, grown out slightly longer as befitting the Lady Baratheon, was tied back in a more practical ponytail. The Lady Baratheon, yet also the wild wolf of Winterfell. Still chuckling, she patted Brienne's armplate. "I just knew she'd still be bitter when my needle kicked her Valyrian steel into the dust." Arya turned to look Daenerys over. "You look good. A sister would probably disagree, but the trousers suit you." Daenerys laughed. Rhaenys and Visenya both wore trousers over their chainmail dragon riding outfits, so I don't consider myself out of the Targaryen style. Arya grinned widely, quite supportive of the answer. "It was a good spar, Lady Brienne. I hope we can have a rematch another time." She bowed to her partner. The Lady Knight of Tarth bowed back. "I look forward to it, Your Highness." With Brienne moving off to find Podrick, Daenerys and Arya fell in lockstep as they made their way through the gates towards the massive camp nestled between Wintertown and Winterfell Castle. "He's still not talking, is he?" Sighing, Daenerys' answering look said it all. "My brother was always a stubborn ass in his own way. Never did like expressing his feelings." "No man does, but he's worse." "Believe me, I know." Around them, thousands of men and women, of every conceivable nationality and ethnicity, from all corners of the Targaryen Empire, milled about, working around the clock to prepare for the final clash with the army of the dead. Unsullied prepared to march for Last Hearth, Northerners working around the clock with the Essosi auxiliaries to construct Winterfell defences, men of the Westerlands and men of Dawn standing in line together by the forges to receive their dragonglass-coated weapons, with only a few brawls breaking out. Everyone stared at Daenerys wherever she went. Everyone from Tyrell bannermen with their steel burgonets, the wildlings in their mismatched furs, to the Salets of the Vales of the Knights, watched her as if she were a golden mammoth. Even the Westerlanders, men who had fought her from the very beginning of the Emperor's War, looked upon her not with hate, but with awe. "Well, look 'em good, Your Highness!" hooted Lord Lyle Craycall, the strong boar of the Westerlands. His men, refitted with dragonglass-lined blades and shields, smacked their new weapons together and hooted in bravado. It heartened Daenerys. Even the men most predisposed to wish her dead united under the Targaryen banner to fight the greater threat. "I aim for that, my lord." The bannermen of Craycall cheered at that answer, even though it was less than the soaring confidence of their lord. Arya was just shaking her head in amazement at it all. "Wasn't too long ago that I wouldn't have run needle through Lord Lyle Craycall's head like I did Polliver." She didn't know who Polliver was, but Dany knew Arya well enough to deduce the mystery man was a former name on her list. "The Pax Targaryena is alive and well, sister. Once we defeat the dead, that is." Jon's behaviour made her worry about his readiness on that front. Or was there something else? At least the army is well oiled and ready to fight. Arya snorted. "Fuck the army. Go after the head fucker and stab him in the heart. Won't need an army then. Daenerys couldn't fault her sister's logic. Catching a merry laugh, Daenerys turned her head to find an interesting sight. Her handmaiden, Missandei, engrossed in conversation with Tormund and the two massive giants, Magmar and Won-Won. Now this seems interesting, the Empress remarked to her sister. Giants are a riot, laughed Arya. Let's go. The translator was talking haltingly, seemingly in gibberish with Tormund and even the giants, until Magmar straightened from where he sat and slammed his fist against his chest. Won-Won looked up, soon reciprocating. Then Tormund and Missandei caught their new arrivals. Your Highness, Lady Baratheon, the handmaiden said. I didn't see you arrive. That's all right, Missandei. The woman was far too formal, even after this long. So what is this? Missandei's eyes sparkled. Tormund, Magmar and Won-Won were teaching me Magnuk, the great tongue of the giants. It's magnificent in its simplicity. She was like a little girl sampling a platter of sweets. What is this? Language number 20? 21. I learnt the old tongue from the wildlings during our time in Riverrun. Won-Won, giving Magmar a sidelong glance, his stocky jaw curling into a grin. He began speaking, guttural words ending in a stream of laughter. Dany watched as Missandei giggled while Tormund hung his head in his hands, muttering obscenities. And what is so amusing? She asked, hands on her hips and smirking. Missandei looked up to Won-Won. Ba, Nuk, Meg, Jek, Newt, Won-Won. The two giants bellowed a chuckle as Won-Won gently patted the translator on the back, who wore a huge smile at having got it right. I was just telling the noble One-Weg-One-Dar-One that he told a great humorous story about Tormund. This I've got to hear, Arya cackled, smirking at Won-Won. For all fucks that is good, please don't, Tormund begged. Arya thumped him on the shoulder. Shut up! Tell us. At Dany's nod, Missandei turned on her impromptu seat to face them. Well, it concerns Tormund's name. Arya and Dany listened intently while Tormund groaned. Apparently, Won-Won says that Giantsbane is a euphemism for Giant's Babe, and that our waddling friend here secured that name by surviving a rather heavy winter storm by a female giant mistaking him for her babe and nursing him on her teat for 2 weeks. That responding laughter only made Tormund want to bury his head in the snow and suffocate himself. The young Stark was near tears. Why did I tell Jon this? Line break. The fire called to him. Jon was alone in his solar, the solar of the guest rooms in Winterfell. Rooms that once held visiting dignitaries of all stripes, including that of Robert Baratheon, arriving north in that fateful trip. Only, instead of the halls of Wintertown, Jon's bed was graced by the sleeping form of his beloved dragon. Daenerys enjoying a peaceful slumber while he was out here, restless, unable to find peace wherever he went. Born of war, life of war. All that different Jon from the great warlords of the past, but that he hated what he was good at. That didn't mean it did not follow him. Did he truly wish peace for himself? Or did the dragons seek out flame? Did the wolves seek out ice? Both destructive, untempered, deadly in their true form. The paradox tormented him, ripped apart his soul, leaving Jon unable to make sense of his life, of his duty. Crackling within the hearth, log twisting in agony as more and more of it transformed into blackened ash. The flames reached out to Jon, giving him part of that sense of peace that he so craved, if only a fraction. Unable to stop himself, the Targaryen Emperor slowly inched his hand into the flames, searing heat enveloping him in a comforting embrace. It was a new feeling, one he hadn't experienced before. Jon suddenly pulled out his hand, shaking it like mad, his heart beating. Why did I do that? Why had he sought out the flame? You are the blood of the dragon, Jon. The voice inside him sounded like his father. his real father, Rhaegar. He had appeared in his dreams, increasingly making his presence known. Only now the voice seemed as clear as if his father was right next to him. But he wasn't. Jon was alone.
"Gods, what is wrong with me?"
he said to no one in particular. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. Dragons do not answer to gods nor men, let alone mere to prophecies. Jon shook his head, as if banishing a demon from his head.
"Am I going mad?"
A fear more found in Daenerys, but he had the blood as well. The trend to madness, just like his grandfather, like his uncle.
"You are not mad, my son.
I am here, and you need to listen." He fell back into his chair, shutting his eyes in pain.
"You aren't real!"
He wanted to shout, but something stopped him. An instinct, a mystic force swirling within him that he understood not, but for a gut feeling, innate for the blood of the dragon and wolf.
"What do you want from me, father?"
Do not kill Daenerys. You must fight those that say you must.
"Do you think I want to?"
He thundered. As fast as the rage came, it simmered out in the cord.
"But I may have no choice."
There is always a choice, Jon. You are a dragon and a wolf, ice and fire, born with all you need to bring the dawn. You must shape your own destiny.
"Father."
Within the hearth, the fire swelled, roaring alight. The knock on the door broke the moment. The fire stilled, returning to a normal flicker. Jon stood, sweat pouring down his back.
"Come in,"
he answered breathlessly. Sandor Clegane opened the door.
"Sire, your brother, the kid, and the red bitch are here to see you."
He suppressed a smirk at how blunt his Kingsguard was. "'Tis fine, Sandor. Let them in." Nodding, the hound opened the door further. Melisandre walked in with her hands clasped in front of her. Bran entered behind, the diminutive form of Leaf pushing his wheelchair. Bringing up the rear was Davos, looking uncomfortable as he always had been among the mystical. A final muttering and Clegane shut it behind him.
"Bran, Leaf."
Jon's mask was on full display.
"Lady Melisandre."
She curtsied low, respect evident. "Your Majesty, I hope that I may serve you during your moment of doubt and destiny." A silence permeated, broken only by the crackling of the fire. Melisandre spoke up before Jon could address her once more. "The Keeper of the Dawn informed me of your predicament." Jon felt anger and frustration at Bran well forth within him.
"Why?"
he choked out, not amused that in his private tumult was being discussed with those he hadn't himself sought out. "My sight is not foolproof, brother," Bran answered, his voice flat but emotion glinting in his eyes. "That which I do not know of only comes to me randomly. That which I do know only appears in pieces. Intense energy is needed to see more. Energy finite within me." He sighed, hands clenching on the armrests of the chair. "I cannot give you any more information, other than I have shown you." A slight tear fell from his cheek.
"Please forgive me, Jon.
But Melisandre and Leaf are the only ones among us that can share insight for you." Watching his brother, so broken and heartbroken for him, Jon felt his anger cool.
"Tell me what you know."
"The prince that was promised. He is prophesied to be a great man, a man who overcomes the greatest obstacles, who places his life on the brink to bring the dawn against the terrible, terrible night." She brushed past him to the hearth, as welcome towards the fire as Jon had been earlier. "But he is not destined to have a life of happiness. Only death and suffering does the Lord of Light have for his prince." "Such was true for Sorin." Jon turned to see Leaf, anguish on her cherubic face, one both monstrous and angelic at the same time. "I saw the pain in his eyes." the agony coursing through him as my leader and lover told him what he must do to counteract the stone magic used to create the Night King. His brother in all but blood. Grief filled her, the weight of millennia crashing upon her.
John's brow rose. Your lover?
Leif nodded. Silas, the high leader of all our clans. He was the one that the clan leaders selected to lead us through the war with the First Men, and the one who created the Night King out of mud and Stark, our greatest human enemy. A tear fell from her cheek. The one I loved. He is dead now, killed during the assault on the Great Weirwood, where you showed up to save Bran. She sat, forlorn. I know the pain you feel firsthand, Emperor. I wish it were different. But this great evil can only be broken through the greatest selflessness. Shaking his head, Jon hid his tears.
No, there can still be a chance.
His father's words still rang in his mind.
Do not kill Daenerys. You must fight those who say you must.
Despite at least grieving for her emperor's anguish, Melisandre remained determined. I have seen glimpses of the future in the fire. Hazy glimpses. Ones that lack clarity. I thought Stannis Baratheon would be the prince that was promised, unable to see the flames for what they really were. But there was always one constant, Jon Targaryen. She paused, meeting his gaze. A man, holding forth the flaming sword, holding forth Lightbringer in the middle of the great blizzard, surrounded by snow. The prophecy is clear, my Emperor. You must do what is necessary to bring the dawn.
Jon had heard enough. I have to be alone.
Shoving past the Red Witch, he stormed out of the Salar. Melisandre's voice was loud behind him. You cannot escape your destiny, Emperor. The night is dark and full of terrors. Emotions, dark emotion, swirled inside him, like the harshest of tempests. Jon had it on his mind to head into the courtyard, intending to find the first man or group of men that he could and train with them, knowing that he would best them in no time flat, but not caring. Needing to lessen the tide of darkness before it enveloped him.
Your Majesty, wait!
A hand on his shoulder, Jon spun and nearly broke it before he saw Sir Davos standing before him. Not backing down.
Glad to see your reflexes are still sharp, sire.
He laughed, easing the tension. Jon relaxed, letting some of the tension dissipate.
Please leave me be, Davos. I am in no mood to talk.
I won't keep you for long, Your Majesty, but just listen for a moment. Standing nearly alone among the many in the Empire, among the many that surrounded both the Emperor and Empress, Davos had come from nothing to be the right hand of more than one great noble. He had seen Stannis Baratheon as a strong elder sibling, but in both Jon and Daenerys, he saw two young souls as close to his own children as not any of his sire. Young and often overwhelmed souls that needed someone to look out for them, to care for their happiness, and that the squabbling jackals wouldn't do.
I'm sorry this is happening to you. If that is all, then leave me.
No, that's not all, sire. Gods, you and Her Highness, after seeing all the shit in the world, both of you are the light of hope. Not because of any magic or any fancy words some addled mystic says, but because you love each other. Pure, genuine. Hells, we haven't even had either of those since the first Starks and Targaryens that Lord Brandon told me about. Closing his eyes, Jon tried not to think about the love, the radiating joy that sparkled in Dany's eyes whenever she laid her gaze upon him.
All doesn't matter if Melisandre's prophecy is true. If the Lord of Light insists that I do what the Fosters or Ahai did,
well then, fuck the Lord of Light. Jon blinked, taken aback. Davos rarely cursed. Fuck the gods and the prophecies and all that shite. Whatever happens in the afterlife can wait till we're dead. For while we live, we can only fight with our own two fucking hands. He clasped Jon's hands, almost fatherly in his touches. I followed you because you made miracles happen. Her Highness's followers, pledged to her, because she made miracles happen. I've seen the both of you achieve greatness, things unparalleled in history, untouched by madness or bloodlust or hunger for power. If there's anyone that can tell the prophecy to shove itself up its ass, then it's you, John. Despite himself, John couldn't help but chuckle. For the first time in weeks, the fire within him felt as if it was tempering. Calming.
Thank you, Sir Davos.
The Onion Knight nodded.
But you must tell Her Highness. She deserves to know.
John's eyes darkened, resignation clouding his expression.
I know.
Line break.
The Unsullied are off to the last hearth with the Dornish and Westerlands cavalry,
Robb stated, ice clipped to his hip. He was in riding clothes for good reason.
I move with the northern contingent after this war council. My wife and sister will be in command of Winterfell and the supply chains after I leave.
John found no need to argue.
That is acceptable. Ensure the roads are clear, Lady Stark. I do not intend for Last Hearth to be where we make our last stand. Just blood them.
Marjorie nodded, ready to defend her home. John pointed to the markers for the Umber home.
Lord Umber has evacuated everyone, so the lands are deserted except for our forces and the dead. The Night King will attack head-on.
Your Majesty, spoke Lady Tyene, why do you think...
He will attack head-on.
John replied, no room for doubt. None doubted him after that.
Our forces will be mobile. Kill as many of them as possible, then retreat back to Winterfell. No heroics. Understood?
After exclamations of assent all around, Daenerys began to speak. His Majesty and I will ride to Last Hearth after this meeting as well. Our presence is needed there, and so we will take command there by nightfall.
But it would take a few days by horse at the fastest.
Lord Leo Lefford, Lord of Golden Tooth in the Westerlands. Dany shared an amused glance with John. By horse, yes. Dragons are faster. The room shared a laugh at Lefford's expense, who smiled slightly to himself.
Pardon, Your Highness.
Tyrion, lips drawn into a thin line, leaned forward as to be seen among the table. Has there been any word from potential survivors at Castle Black? He trailed off. It was not lost on anyone that he referred to his brother, the commander of Castle Black, relief force, and currently missing in action.
Robb cleared his throat. There was no news from the wall since the Great Fall blocked out the sun.
All their information, at least initially, were dependent on the Three-Eyed Raven's green sight. None were about to risk their Majesty's dragons to the Night King for a proper scouting.
We must operate on the assumption that Castle Black holds no survivors.
Tyrion sat back in his chair, resigned to the likelihood, but still ashen, still grieving. My uncle is a survivor! Eyes turned to the youthful glare of Tommen Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock, an adopted heir to the legacy of Tywin Lannister. If anyone can live through whatever the ice monsters sent him, it is Jaime Lannister. The boy still had the quiet disposition of the sweet, gentle lad under the sway of his mother and older brother, but as the compromise solution to the integration of the Westerlands into the Empire, the golden-armoured young lord was at least trying. Not that the other lords welcomed a Lannister within the War Council. Men such as Edmure Tully were only just now warming to Tyrion's presence. But he had a supporter in the Empress, no less. My brother means no disrespect, Lord Lannister, Daenerys interjected, dispelling any tension. Well, additional tension. We all wish for Sir Jaime to arrive back unharmed, with the rest of the Castle Black garrison. Men her husband considered close friends. But we cannot count on it, and must prepare accordingly. The reply was a series of nods from across the room. Line broke.
It's a good thing Robb sent the majority of the army to Last Hearth already, John mused, trudging through the snow, the powdery white crystals crunching underneath his boots, icy wind slamming against his cloak. It didn't bother him. He'd been through far worse. Only thing was, worse was only slightly more terrible than this. The Great Fall affected all. They would have been stuck in this snowfall while the Night King took the castle.
You heard what your brother said, my love. Danny's head rested on his shoulder, pulled close to his side for warmth as they walked. The Night King is moving slowly. Our forces will be there. Blood them and draw back. Her blood ran hot, but mere months in the colder climes did not acclimate her to the ice like her northern husband was. A shiver drew her ever closer to John. Not that the Emperor complained. It's odd. That monster could have been in Winterfell by now, had he made haste. It's not like his army needs supplies or rest. She could hear the hitch in John's breath, but she said nothing.
She has to know. You can't tell her, John. I must.
Conflicted, John remembered Bran's words, Melisandre's words. To leave Danny unknowing of what the Night King intended would not serve anything.
I will tell her.
He just needed to wait for the right time and place.
There they are.
He started trotting towards the dragon's little, well, not so little, nest. Sighing, Daenerys let it go. He had come clean on what was bothering him eventually. With what faced both of them, she wouldn't push it. Blackened bones and half-eaten husks of carcasses laid strewn all over the snow. Enough to pile a small hill's worth, with how much each dragon could eat. For the three eldest, their wingspans could already stretch out to cover the diameter of Winterfell, having only grown since Jon had ridden Rhaegal into battle, and Daenerys Balerion during the Battle of the Bastards. For their daughters, they had only grown exponentially since that day. Fed constantly, though already the same size as their brother was when he saved Jon from near death north of the wall. The two monarchs shared a look with each other, knowing it would soon be time for Arya and Rhaegar to choose their dragons to ride. If there would be time. Noticing their mother and father, the dragons showered them with attention.
Hey, hey, easy there.
Jon laughed. Sensenya and Rhaella butted heads as they tried to lick his face. Edron and Rhaegal watched with their heads tilted in amusement. Sweet, joyous laughter left Dany's mouth, gently stroking Balerion and Rhaenyra on the snout. They missed their father, she giggled, rather thankful at the more gentle welcome than the others were giving her. Her laughs intensified as both adolescent dragons knocked Jon into the snow with their enthusiasm. Relax, my love. You don't mind when Ghost does it.
There's lesser chance. Girls, please. Ghost would kill me if he...
Stop!
Has too much enthusiasm.
He had to have been drenched with dragon slobber at this point, but Jon couldn't help but join in his wife's laughter. As Sensenya and Rhaella calmed down, merely nuzzling their prone father with their warm snouts, Jon decided his wife deserved a bit of fun.
Rhaegal, say hello to your mother.
At the nod from the large green dragon, Dany's eyes widened. She scrabbled to address her son. Rhaegal, do not! Suddenly she felt a large head gently knock her into the snow, a rather warm tongue drenching her white dress as it licked her. Rhaegal! Now it was her turn to squirm while the Emperor laughed.
Turnabout's fair play, Daenerys,
he chided, earning a glare from her. It didn't last, both of them exploding into laughter. A welcome respite from the tension and dread of the last few weeks. Just then, two mighty dragon lords in love. Not long after, both were astride their dragons, experts from an intense amount of trial and error. You certainly look like a Targaryen king, my love, she called out, longing in her stare. He smiled back.
Honestly, I think I rode dragonback before you did.
Jon enjoyed how she opened her mouth to retort, only for it to die in her throat, confused and calculating as if he was right.
I'll leave you to it, Dany. Serving on!
Hooting into the air, Rhaegal rocketed from the ground, leathery wings beating like mad as he ascended. Jelimon min it is, Daenerys glowered, chuckling despite herself. Serving on! With a hoot of his own, Balerion joined his brother in the skies, rapidly followed by his other brother and three sisters. Jon remembered the first time he had flown on dragonback. Pain over using regret, fear at the presence of the army of the dead, a wholly different fear at the lowly bastard of Winterfell having only non-fatal choice of being to entrust his life to the whims of a flying monster, and yet he felt an innate calling, an instinct within him that said a dragon back wasn't just a necessity. It was destiny. Something he was born to do. And now he accepted it, revelled in it, allowed the joy and exhilaration course through him as it had for generations of riders and dragon lords before him. The Dothraki had the plains, the free folk had the ice, the Ironborn had the sea.
But the skies belong to the Targaryens!
All worries left him. All pain and tension blew away from Jon through the gusts of wind slamming against him. He was free, freer than he had ever been. God's answer to neither gods nor men. Atop the world, joined by only himself, his beautiful wife, and his children, soon to be joined by all of his children, once they bonded and learned to ride their dragons. Jon was finally free. If only for a little while. He lived for these moments, desired by him for longer than he had ever known. Glancing back, he had just caught Daenerys' radiant smile, before Balerion lurched upwards, Rhaenyra close behind as the Empress dared him, herself just as carefree as he. Looking out at Sansenya, the red-orange adolescent bobbed her head, eager to give chase and best her brother and sister in this challenge. He grinned and nodded. "Ready, boy?" Rhaegal growled, his older spirit no less challenged by his larger brother. "Rhaegal! Hebnon!" A laugh escaped him as the dragon ascended into the clouds. The grey haze clouded his vision, but Jon could make out the shapes of his beloved within the swirling vortex. Rhaegal soon caught up, his smaller size making for greater speed as they settled into a game of movements. A lover's dance as old as dragon riding itself. Laughter and whoops of excitement leaving the young monarchs as their passion and free spirits manifest in the loops and turns of their dragons. Young lovers, born to ride, to witness the earth in ways only the gods could. Fire made flesh. Fire was passion. Fire was life. Wing beats securing him in the lead, the clouds of the long night suddenly disappeared. Jon greeted with a sheet of blue, the deluge of sun, ever high in the sky and as bright as he remembered. Daenerys followed close behind, their mounts arcing in the skies, basking in the light, enjoying the warmth banishing away the deep chill. They met each other's gaze, time stilling, distance great, but both seeing each other as if there were no gap. Dazzling smiles on their faces, that only appeared when they were together, alone. No worries, just each other. And, as quickly as it came, it was over. The dragons dove, sun disappearing in the clouds as they plummeted through the air. But neither Jon nor Dany cared, roaring at the top of their lungs from the sheer rush through their systems, taking the icy chill in stride as their children joined in. 8 dragons answering a challenge from the booming snow clouds over who truly ruled the skies. Roaring till exiting the canopy and reuniting with the expanse of ground beneath them. Jon's laughs and shouts died down, heart settling into the rhythm of an expert rider. One arm still wrapped tightly around Rhaegal's back spine, the other softly stroking the beast's neck. "Good boy!" A hoot answered him, the dragon suddenly lurching forward. Jon barely had time to hold tight before Rhaegal arced upwards, hoots barking out from him as he looped in the skies. His rider let out a cry of surprise, unsuspecting of the sudden move, something the dragon found quite amusing. One picked up on the bond and forced from the eyes of the beautiful woman watching the whole thing. Breathing deeply, steadying his bearings, Jon lightly smacked Rhaegal on the scales. "That wasn't funny." Craning his neck back, Rhaegal gave him a cock of the head, as if to say, "Yes, it was." "Shut up." The dragon only hooted once more. Shaking his head, chuckling, Jon suddenly spotted something on the ground. "Boy, dive over there." Not needing any further command, knowing exactly what his father wanted, Rhaegal complied with a steep dive. Behind him, Daenerys blinked, puzzled as to where Jon was going. But she trusted him. "Balerion! Take on!" The Black Dread Reborn roared into the air and dove, following his brother. The other dragons stayed airborne, circling over their mother, father, and brothers in a protective patrol. While he enjoyed teasing his father with aerial gymnastics, Rhaegal knew the time to play and the time to be serious. Thus he swallowed out of the dive rather high in the sky, beating down rapidly to slow his descent. He plopped down in the chilling snow, which he did not enjoy, with a greater gentleness than usual, which his father did enjoy. Scrambling down the dragon with an expert's quick footwork, Jon found the dragon's head right in front of him, neck curling around. He smiled, rubbed his snout, and rested his forehead against the warm scales.
"Good boy, Rhaegal,"
the dragon purred, Jon feeling similar as to when he was holding and cooing a little Sierra.
"Papa's proud of you."
The massive dragon seemed to nuzzle his hand, heart soaring at the praise.
"He's my child, as much as she is."
A dragon rider's bond with his dragon was as close as with one of his children. Moments like these were when he felt truly a Targaryen, a pure, trueborn like Daenerys. Jon felt 2 arms wrap around his waist, a soft mouth leaning up to press a kiss on the back of his neck. "I love you, my dragon," whispered his wife. "I wish this could be our life."
"I thought southern girls hated the cold,"
Jon chuckled, turning in her arms as the green beast ambled through the snow to where his brother waited.
"Then again, we could always use our dragons to keep warm."
His eyebrow rose suggestively.
"Or each other."
A rosy blush spread across her pale cheeks. Oh! The image of them nestled within his cloak, huddled close as they made love in the snow, caused heat to spread to rather intimate places within her. "I would like that very much, my emperor." Daenerys grinned up at him, both the only ones alive who could experience the sheer joy of dragon riding. He was her dragon, and she was his, towering above all, but equals to each other.
"A Targaryen alone in the world is a terrible thing."
Aemon's words often seemed too confusing to her, but Dany got it now. Only Jon could truly be her equal, someone who watched her from the same level rather than staring up from the base of the pedestal all Targaryen stood on. And he is such a good man. Dany considered herself gifted by Providence. The rush of water caught her ears, causing violet eyes to gaze at the right. Eyes that widened and sparkled in wonder at the sight. A waterfall! Liquid pouring from and into a sulphuric hot springs, banishing the ice and snow around it. An oasis of beauty and hope in the middle of the harshest climb of the northern kingdoms within her domain. "Jon! It's beautiful!"
"We used to travel here,"
he stated, face serene in a happy memory, one of the few from his childhood.
"The children of House Stark, journeying on horseback, though I much prefer using a dragon."
The two shared a knowing grin.
"All of us. Myself, Robb, Sansa, Arya, Bran. Rickon was too young, though had we a few more years of peace, we would have brought him as well. We would just come here and enjoy a respite from responsibility. Be ourselves."
The smile widened, though his eyes were heavy with emotion.
"It was the only time I could be their sibling in the open, where even Sansa would love me as a brother."
Dany held him close, enjoying the beat of his heart, his spicy scent. "I wish I could have come." He nodded, kissing her head before pulling her chin so that their eyes met.
"When this is all over, I want to bring all of us here. Marjorie, Mira, Podrick, Gendry, all of us. Enjoy our hard-won peace."
God, she loved this man. "I would like that, my dragon wolf." She beamed, kissing him deeply. Pulling back, she saw his smile falter, joy replaced with his hidden pain. Not banished away, only masked for a little while. Freedom crashing down with the weight of the chains of responsibility and duty. "What is bothering you, my love?" Daenerys was going to find out. It was time.
"You don't wish to know, Daenerys."
"Jon!" Cupping his cheek, Dany only pulled him closer when he winced at her touch. "Hey!" You can tell me anything, John.
His resolve was wavering. Not this. I can't let any of this happen to you.
John looked straight into her eyes, willing her to believe him, to believe how determined he was.
I will not lose you. I will die before that happens.
Her gaze didn't waver from the fiery glint in his. The Dragon Empress remained focused on her husband, melting the ice coating his heart. I'm not going anywhere, John. Why would you think that? She leaned up, kissing him lightly on the lips. Tell me.
John sighed, defeated. Danny.
End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I like that chapter. Very, very good chapter, that one. Oh my goodness. My throat's actually quite sore from all the yelling. Oh boy, so yeah, he's finally going to tell her. And I like Davos snapping him out of it, and his fatherly bond with John. It's just really sweet, you know. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Take care, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Bye!